my recording at least, some more orientation to Xcode. This is the missing manual from Apple because it's not there. And people open up Xcode and go, what in the world happened to this? I put a little thing on my dock. This is again for brand new Mac people. I put a little thing down here. Otherwise, it's in the applications folder. Find the little intimidating hammer and blue A thing and click on it. And it brings up Xcode. If you have a previous version of Xcode, you have a different window. And the window had a bunch of stuff in here. It has a bunch of sample projects or something like that. Looks a little different. However, on the new interface, once you click here where it says create a new Xcode project, you see the same thing or something similar to it. So the old version has something that looks like this on it. And it's not really exactly the same. The newer version looks like this. I'm demoing the new version for you. So for those of you who missed it, I clicked on that create a new application. So go ahead and if you're following along, go ahead and do that. So for the first part of the course, we'll be looking a lot over here at number 1 over here, the single view application. A single view application is one application type. I'm going to actually click on some of these other ones in a few minutes, show you the differences. But this is going to give us our base application that we're going to work with. I'm going to show you how we're going to build these things without building anything. So we'll see what this looks like. If I click on next down here on the bottom, if your computer is brand new, you just installed Xcode, you're not going to have anything filled in yet. So once you fill in the organization, and I put organizational name as ITU, and I put the company identifier, it's generally the name of the company URL backwards. So, or I put it, instead of edu.itu, I put it in itu.edu. It's the website URL. You can also put anything you want in there, and you can leave it blank if you wanted to as well. Down here, I don't even put anything in the class prefix. I just leave that blank. And then we have this thing down here that says device. And we have iPad, iPhone, and universal. So here's the big old trick. We're going to cut our work down by 3, or half. We can make one app that works on everything. That's universal. We'll make some apps that work on iPad, and we'll make some apps that work on iPhones. So that's the beauty of iOS development. It's all together. All works together. Versus Android, where it was all different. I'm seeing some Android people in here. We're all different. And Android was so inconsistent among different platforms. This is a piece of cake. This is easy compared to Android. People go, but this looks harder. Looks harder, but it's a lot easier. So go ahead and give your, I'm going to call this one Hello World. Go ahead and give your app a name. We're going to make, I'm actually going to make an app right now, actually. So I'm going to call it Hello World. And I'm going to press next. And I'm going to give it a location. Now, unlike the Android environment where everything was put in workspace, this can be anywhere you want. I put everything on my desktop. Because if I put it on the desktop, then I can throw it away when the class meeting's over with. And I throw away a lot of apps. Because I'll just write something, and then just throw it away when I'm done with it. So you might not necessarily want to throw it away. You might want to keep yours forever. Put it on your wall, print it out, or do whatever you want to do with it. Don't put it on your desktop, because then your desktop's going to get too cluttered. The thing about Macs, actually, which they don't tell you, is the same thing they have, same problem it has with Windows, actually. You clutter the desktop, the whole system runs slower. You don't want to stick a bunch of stuff on that desktop. Anyway, but mine doesn't matter. So now what I'm going to do is kind of give you the rundown of Xcode. This is what makes iOS development seem like it's more difficult when it's not. So in Android and other languages, you have a mix and match. You have XML code with Java code with, oh, I don't know, you can even throw some C code in there. You have just a mix and match of stuff in there. Xcode, 100% Objective-C, nothing else. No mixing and matching, it's all the same. So you have that working in your favor. Unfortunately, Objective-C is an extremely difficult language to learn and understand. Well, now that I said that, no one's going to want to learn it. If you look up in the right-hand side of the screen over here where I'm hovering my mouse around, I see 2 sets. Actually, here's the problem I have with Xcode. Too many buttons, too many options. So this first set of icons, if you see where I'm waving right here on the top of the screen on the upper right-hand side, I got 3 little buttons here. When it's blue, it's not selected. Yeah. When it's blue, it is selected, I'm sorry. When it's black, it's not selected. So I could select all three. Oops, we don't want to do it. Document is not under source control, I know, and I clicked on the source control menu. Do we want to do attendance?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to take a slight break right now from our tour.
This will be the...
All right, so let me continue. All right, so actually this is probably a good thing. At the break, I've had people were telling me that there's a little warning. I think the warning shows up down here, actually, underneath identity. And it's a warning because you see a little yellow triangle kind of road sign thing. If your computer was used by another developer in the past, and the developer had a code signing or had a certificate that was installed, remember I was saying a few minutes ago or before the break that, you know, you can sign up for a developer account, yada yada. As soon as you get the developer account, your system gets tagged. So it's signed with, I say tagged, I really mean signed. Your apps are signed with your Apple signature as a developer. If you don't have that, you're not that person, you're not logged into that Apple account, and you make a new app, you might actually see that. If you see that, don't worry about it. We can always remove it. I can't remember how to remove it, but I can figure out how to remove it. Otherwise, there's probably eventually going to be a prompt that says to remove it. Do you want to remove it, kind of thing. Otherwise, what we can do is if you find the Apple ID of the person who actually was using the computer, you can put that in there, and that would fix the problem. Otherwise, don't worry about it. We can remove it, or in another 3 weeks, we'll tag it with your own ID. So we'll take it out anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Don't worry about it unless it's preventing your app from compiling. We'll figure that out in a few minutes. So anyway, long story short, on the left-hand side, these are the three navigation kind of icons, and I call this one the tuxedo icon, and this one's just a plain view on the left icon. We'll go through hiding and showing different things. As an example, this one here is this right pane. It's supposed to visually be showing us different sections of it. This is the bottom one. If I click it, it goes up and down. This is the left-hand side, the right-hand side. So I sort of like this view actually by default. Doesn't really matter. What ends up happening is you'll figure out at one point, hey, I'm missing something. Oh my God, where'd it go? Look up here and start clicking on stuff. And then the funny thing is as you start clicking on things, you'll notice this stuff in here will start populating as well. There's another grouping of icons within the icons. Hardest part of Xcode is figuring out where you are in the system. Anyway, so let me go back to the left-hand side over here. Our user interface is in here. If I clicked on main_iPad.storyboard, I see I have one that says iPad, and I clicked on iPhone. I have one here that says iPad and one that says iPhone on it. And if I do that, I'm going to see two different interfaces. So this one here is kind of hidden, but it's right here in the background. So the way that we build our user interfaces, and we'll do this throughout the course, and I'm just going to give you a little orientation to it right now, is we drag and drop things from the library and we stick it on the interface. And we go, well, how do I find the library? The library is way down here on the bottom. So if I click on, for example, I'm going to go back here and click on the iPhone. If I click on the iPhone, I see I get a blue, oops, there we go. I get a blue like outer thing that says, oh, you selected this item. Oh, there we go. I don't know why I'm not getting the blue on here. There we go. Here's the blue. And I can move the screen anywhere I want on my view. And you might notice something interesting that I'm showing you right here. It's a little 2-button mouse with a wheel in the middle of it. Why do I do that? Well, any mouse would work, but this is a little easier for me because I can right mouse click, left mouse click. You only need 2 buttons. If you want to do this and you don't want to frustrate yourself with this entire interface, and we're going to see this in a few minutes, then if you get yourself on these little external USB or wireless mice, you'll save yourself a lot of heartache in trying to click and touch the right thing with this little touchpad thing. It's just ridiculous. And I'm a fan of Apple and everything, but when I do the Xcode development, I have a mouse. I like the mouse. So I'll show you why I like the mouse. So as an example, if I come down to the library, I click on the library. We're going to make Hello World, and I'm going to run it twice for you so you can sort of see how this works. If you don't see this part over here, click on this little piece over here, brings it up. If you click on the window, you're going to see a bunch of stuff on the top of this lower window. It's going to say ViewController. This is a ViewController, by the way. It's bringing up the item I clicked on, actually. View Table ViewController, Collector's View. I can scroll down this way and I actually see label on here. Or I could simply on the bottom of the screen here type in label. If I type in label, I see label. Drag a label, put it on the canvas. If you do this with your touchpad thing, it's kind of like click, drag. You're doing like the little aerobics with your fingers. This is a little easier. Anyway, so I'm going to put on here hello. I'm just going to double click on this one here. And I'm going to put here hello from the class. And I can see I can change some attributes about this label, and I can change attributes about the screen with this window over here. So they used to call it, this used to be called an interface builder. It's now incorporated into the main interface. We're going to review all of this stuff next week when most of you have your computers and we actually build a Hello World program. But for the orientation of it right now, I would, between now and next week, if you want, make sure you got XCode installed, play with it. The only way to learn a new software package is to play with it. There's nothing you can do wrong. You can't destroy anything. So make a new project, come over here, click on the background example, come over here to the right hand side, it says white color. Well, I like it green. Make it green. Click on the label over here. I'm going to change the font here to 20 something. I'm going to make it big. Come down here and drag some miscellaneous stuff on here. Let's just type in slide for slider. Drag a slider over here. Play around with the slider. Drag some stuff on there. See what's in the library. See what you can drag over. Get familiar with the concept of dragging stuff over, looking at the interface, and then make sure you can run it. So how do we run it? Well, that's an interesting question. So we look up here on the left-hand side. We see this nice little arrow over here, and then we see over here this little menu. Didn't know that it was a clickable menu on my screen because of the way the iOS 7 looks, but it's a clickable, selectable item. If I click on it, I see I can run it, and these are the iOS simulators. So this one here is an iPhone, and it says iPhone Retina on here, 3.5. If I click on the little button here, I see on the top, it starts compiling, and it says build successful. And then in a few minutes, I'm going to see down here a little screen that's going to come up. And now I see I have a Hello World, a little slider on it, right? You got to be able to be this comfortable for next week. Get this comfortable with it. So that's how I ran the iPhone one, right? So then figure out how to close the iPhone simulator. So you don't actually have to close it. You could leave it up there. Otherwise, for brand new Mac people, you notice at the top of the screen, you see this menu changes with whatever you clicked on. So here it says XCode. This is the worst part for Windows people who are learning the Mac. Windows people don't have this top controller, and you click on the back, you get the main finder. And they go, how in the world do I get back to it? It changes with whatever you've clicked on in the main application. So if I click on this iOS simulator, then I can come over here to the iOS simulator and just quit it. So some people just reboot their computer, and then they discover all the stuff reloads again. Oh no. And then I loaded something, but then I thought I unloaded it, but how do I know it's gone? So for brand new people, as an example, I used Pages earlier. Pages is still loaded. I see it down here. I click on it. I go, oh no, I'm back to Pages. To get rid of Pages, you can use Pages up here, and you can go quit Pages. It actually quits it. Or if you come down here to the bottom and you right mouse click, you can quit from here from the dock. Why do you want to quit? You don't necessarily, if you've got 8 gigs of RAM, you don't necessarily want to close down any applications. You just leave them all running, which is different than Windows. Windows, you open something up, you shut it. You open something else up, you shut it. The Mac, you open it. And it just stays open because you're using it, right? The only problem is it's hard to transition back and forth between those two philosophies. So you can, I actually program in kind of a Windows kind of fashion. I'll just randomly come in here and see what's open, and close. I don't need Firefox open anymore. I just quit that one, Still have my mail open, looks like. But anyway, so that was the interface for the iPad. And so I go over here and I go, well, here's my excuse me, that was the iPhone, by the way. I come over here and I go, well, there's the iPad. Well, what if I run the iPad one? If I say over here, I want to do the iPad Retina, and I run it. I'm not going to see my little green background with my label on it. Now, instead, I'm going to see this little white screen eventually. Or now it's, oh, here it is, it's white. Nothing on here. So we have two separate user interfaces that work with the same program. So here's, I'm going to leave this guy up. So it kind of shows you don't have to shut it down. If I come in here and I'm going to say, well, let's just click on here. I'm going to change the background. This one's going to be purple, pink. And let's go put a label on here. And label I'm going to put on here is another. And then I'm going to go ahead and run it again. And then I'm going to go, well, wait a minute. What's this little thing here? I can stop it. Yeah, so this is like the stop button. I can stop it. And I come back here and I go, well, what's back here? Huh. I got the emulator and I got a big old iPad over here. Well, then I got other stuff on here. What's this stuff? This is a Puzzle Perfect. Look at this, Puzzle Perfect. Another program I installed. Actually, this is one of my other programs. It takes a picture, presses, you can go 4, 3x3, 2x2. I can't do it because I don't have a phone. I can't take a picture, but you take a picture. In fact, here's a picture here. It's actually a picture from my bedroom, or my office, actually. And I play the guitar, by the way. And you click on the buttons, and it mixes it up, or stacks it, and rotates it, you know, moves it around, stuff like that. Anyway, it's an app. Like, we can probably build this app actually towards the end of the semester, but that's on here. So if I press the escape button. On the iPhone emulator, it used to actually take me back. This one's not going to take me back. So, but long story short, if I press the arrow again over here, this one will install. So now I have the emulator back up, and I have the another. So if I quit it, now I see I have both of them in the emulator. And if I want to run it again, here it is here. It's called Hello World. I can click on it again. So. Same thing with the phone. You can load and unload and reload anything you want. And in fact, you can clear out the emulator too. So a lot of people don't like the clutter. Like, in fact, I didn't realize I had that Puzzle Perfect picture thing or whatever I called it on there. I can come into the emulator and I can reset the contents. And if I reset the contents, reset it, now it's empty. Nothing on there but the default. So it removed all that stuff I had on there before. Now I see I have a calendar and newsstand and stuff like that on there. So play around the emulators, play around with the interface. And then what we do from this point, and the way that the style that I do most of the app development tutorials is that we start with a project, create a new project. I usually like to dress up the interfaces first, build the UI by dragging and dropping, sticking stuff on the canvas. And then I usually have this little pattern I go into where I click on the little tuxedo icon. Get rid of the side. I'm moving far ahead right now. And then the way we make all this stuff work is we take and we drag and drop. There's the other reason why you want to get yourself a mouse if you want. So I'm going to hold down the left, my right, left, the left mouse button on my mouse. And I'm going to press the control button on the keyboard, and I'm going to drag this way, and you see this little arrow comes up? This is how we attach things, as an example. And this is going to be like, I'm going to give this a name. I call it title. Now I'm going to go through all the properties in the synthesize next week and stuff like that. But I'm just showing you as an example. This is how we get something on connection-wise between the UI and the source code. And this is the Objective-C part. So this file here was written in Objective-C. A little template came up when I started the project. And then we see this little thing here. It looks like the same thing some people saw with a code signing. And this is a message, a warning message actually. And it doesn't mean anything except for the fact that this is incomplete. If I wanted to fix this warning message, I go over here and I add a synthesize line. We're going to go through this next week. If I want to fix my code, I'm going to synthesize it and put the title. And now if I come over here, I notice that the warning went away. Or it will go away shortly. It takes a few minutes, actually. Let's save it. Well, it's going to tell me that, what's it going to tell me? Copy attribute of property title does not match the property inherited by UI controller. Oh, that's fine. We'll just leave it alone. Actually, because I called it title, which is a reserve word. So if I took it out, let's just do this, actually. Don't call it title, call it my title. There we go. And then I come back over here and I call this one my title. Now I see I don't have any warnings over here. But the interesting thing to note here is we have this connection that occurs. So the reason why they call this a connection is because of this little dot here that connects it. So we start out usually with the UI interface. We build a UI, drag and drop a bunch of stuff on there, connect it, form these connections here, connect all the items to the source code. This is the .h file, by the way. And I'll go through model ViewController actually next week. This is the interface file, started out by @interface, and then we have a corresponding implementation. So we tell the Xcode about all these components that we put out there. We give them all names like my title as an example. And then over in the .m file, we put a title. We set the text to my title. In fact, over here, actually, let's do something. I'm going to go back to the .h file, and I'm going to click over here. And I'm simply going to put a button out here. I'm going to drag a button and stick it out here. And I'm going to put a label on the button that says change the title. And the iOS 7, and I never liked the flat look. It doesn't look like a button. But we'll look at buttons with images and buttons with text and all sorts of different types of buttons. A button's a little different than a label. And this is just a demonstration. I'm not expecting anyone to follow along with this right now. But if I right mouse click on the button, I see I have these things called actions. They're called IB actions for an IB outlet. So the button is going to have something happen to it. And as an example, some of these actions that we'll look at, and we're going to spend the next 16 weeks going over this stuff. We have stuff like touch down, touch up inside, all these different things we could possibly do to this button. You know, touch over, swipe over. And we have gestures in here too. I'm not going to talk about gestures today, but you know, things that you can do to the interface. So for example here, this touch down, if I drag this touch down over here, and I put it over here, and I say touch down event, I'll just put here button touched, button got touched. There we go. I'll just put that in. I'm going to change the type to a UI button here. I see even the button gets connected. So I form this connection. I call this one an IB action for a button. And then over here on the M file, I can see I've got a corresponding implementation for that interface. And this file here actually is called implementation. So it's @implementation. This is the weird part of Objective-C that a lot of people, if you've seen Java, Java's straightforward. Objective-C, this is kind of not so clear. But I'll be going over this. You could take an entire course in this. But I'll be going over some of the syntax starting next week as well. But anyway, over here I can run a method, and you're going to love this method. Watch this method here. This method starts out with opening and closing brackets. And it's going to be something like, what do I call that? My title. My title. And I can say I can just press return, and I can go, well, what is this? I have a set text. Set text, and then we're going to have this equal to a string as an example. So I can maybe just put a string on here, and the string I'm going to put on here is going to be called, hey, you clicked me. So this is like the nature of the source code writing that we're going to be doing. It's not that complicated, but if you don't know what you're doing, it's kind of hard. So I'll be discussing, this is an object, and the object was the label, and this is a method we ran on the object, and this is kind of the weird Objective-C syntax. Once you get past the programming syntax of it, it's not very hard. It's not like you have to write a whole program. This was just one line of code, and watch what this one line of code will do actually. If I change the device back over to the iPhone, and I click on the run to run it, right? I put this one line of code in there to set text. And I'm going to have a problem. Why do I have a problem? Oh, probably because I changed that label around. So let me clean my project out, actually. I changed that button around. Remember, I deleted it. I deleted the tagging. So Xcode's got a few bugs in it. Let's try it again. Build successful. Oops. Stop. Well, here. This is the way I solve the problem. This is the way I have stuff. Let me just show you something real quick here. The reason why that actually happened was because there's a bug in my Xcode version. So let me just do it from scratch to demonstrate what I'm talking about here. So don't do this unless you really want to. We'll do this next week, but I was just going to show you something here. I'm going to call this one hello. And what I had done before on my iPhone is I dragged the label over and I dragged a button over for those people who weren't here in the beginning. And just put a button over here. And go ahead and try to do this between now and next week. Just go ahead and play around with it. This is familiar with how to put stuff on the canvas. And I think I changed the background color. I can do this at the speed of light here. I changed it to green. And I put the label. Let's just do it. Actually, I'll put here hello. And then click me. Right. And then I wired it over here. We'll go through this next week, so don't panic right now like you already missed too much. Don't worry about it. I'm just going to demonstrate something to you. So once we built the interface and we dragged stuff over, the reason why I got that crashing was because I control dragged it over. I gave it a name. I gave it the title. The title wasn't too good. Actually, here, let me put it back here. I called it the title. Title's a reserved word, but it didn't. That's the bug. It registered itself as title, then I changed it to my title. It doesn't matter. It's stuck. I could have rebooted the computer and made it work, actually, but long story short, I'm going to take the label and make it my title, not title. And then now I have my title on here, and then take this click here, and I wired the event, this touchdown event here, and I called it, what did I call it? Touch button or something. Touch button or something, it doesn't really matter. Touch the button. As long as I don't call it button or UI button, I'm good. Which is why you'll find me with these interesting names I put on things, because I don't want to do title, button, label. You do that, you get in trouble with reserved words. When it should, it's a bug. It should really tell you that don't call it that. It's like calling an integer an integer. You can't do that either, but Xcode lets you do it. Anyway, so then I want to come back over here to the ViewController. Remember, a few minutes ago I just typed in that funny looking Objective-C code. It looked like this, and it was, what did I call it? My title. Whoops, I didn't synthesize my title. So hold on one second. And come back up here and add a synthesized line in. We'll do this next week. You notice actually while I'm typing, I get little helps and hints and things. And I'm doing this kind of as a demonstration to show you how good the interface is. It's actually not bad. It's pretty quick. It'll pick it up. Like I start typing M, I can see I have a UI label here, and I just press return and it sets it in. And I go, well, I want to set something. Do I want to set text? Look at that. I can set the text. And I just press return and it fills it in for me. So I don't really have to type that much. I'll go over this at directive with you next week in terms of what we're going to do here. But you clicked me is what I wanted right there. And then I put a little semicolon at the end. So now if I run it, and I run the iPhone Retina emulator, the label up here was called hello, should change. And this is what they call event-driven behavior. When I click on the button, click me. This one's not gonna, this one, so I hear, click me. And I go, oh, look at that. What happened there? It was too big, right? So I can come back here and I can change. Let's just make this one a little bit bigger. So then we troubleshoot it this way. And this is really good. This is what the emulators are really good for, actually. Stuff like this. Eventually, however, if you're going to get into this type of development, don't necessarily need it for this class. But eventually people like to get the real phone. Why do you want to get the real phone to test it on? Because well, you don't have a camera on this here. You have website, you have internet access and stuff like that. But I want to make sure when I click on the click me button, I can see it. And then I can go here and say, well, wait a minute. This is what I want you to do is just get familiar with it and get comfortable with it. So I'm going to go, well, I want this to be centered. So I click on the center. And I want to put a label on, or I don't know, I want to change the text of this label, and I want to put another thing on here and stuff like that. Throw it away when you're all done with it, because here's what you do. When you're all done with it, you're going to have this little, in fact, here's the one I did earlier. You just go like this, you drag it to your no more project. You haven't done no harm, no foul, you haven't messed anything up, which is why I like this. But let's say you want to keep it, then what you can do is, I'm going to close this one now. And I close it, automatically saves as well, so I don't have to worry about that. And I close down Xcode, right? Xcode is completely gone now. Where did that project go? Well, you find the folder, and this one's hello. And you look at this one here, and this is the Xcode project file. You double click on the Xcode project file. And lo and behold, you get your project back. Yep, there it is. It's back. So what I want you to do is between now and next week, because I'm missing a lot of people and some people don't have computers. Number one priority, get Xcode installed. Get a Mac computer, get Xcode installed. Number two, read syllabus. It's a good idea. Orient yourself to the course. Play around with Xcode. Lose the fear factor of it being a brand new program. Make little stuff like this, and then you can always just throw it away. Next week what we're going to do is I'm going to go through and start in immediately. We're going to build a good hello world. One, not to say that this is not a good one, but we're going to build one that has about twice as much functionality to it. Once where you type in your name, it takes your name, puts it on a label. We'll put some images on there. We'll put some other stuff on there. Next week is all about building the UI. And each week I build on it with different topics. So next week it's about here. When we get past this stage a little bit, then we start working on functionality. Different types of controllers, different types of views. As an example, as I told you at the beginning, I was going to show you, and we're not quite done yet. I'm going to show you, I know I promised to get you out on time, but this class has a tendency to run later. Anyway, if I go back in here, this is the other thing you want to do. Create a new project. What about this one here? It says OpenGL Game. Oh, let me try this one out. Next. Test game. Okay, I'm going to put this one on iPhone, actually. iPhone, here we go. Next. Save it to the desktop. You know how many people have never clicked on this item? They don't even know it's there. They don't even know. What is this item? They look at this thing, oh, it's OpenGL Game. What is it? It's actually showing you OpenGL code. Same OpenGL code you program with Java, with C, mostly done with C, actually. This is OpenGL source code. And you think of this and you go, what do you mean by that? You go, well, that's what this one does. And you come in here and you take a look. Thumb around, look at the app delegate files, look at the ViewController files. You might not know what you're looking at yet. But it's an interesting way of exploring the interface in a non-threatening way. An example coming through here again, watch this one. You say, all right, that was the OpenGL one. Okay, so what about this one over here? Tabbed application. Let's take a look at this one. Tabbed. All you have to do is, at one point, all you have to do is put a name in here, because the rest of this is going to auto-populate for you. And then save it to the desktop and go, okay, let me just run this one. What does the tab do? And you look at this and you go, All right, so here's the tab. We have first view, and we have tabs on the bottom. Oh, look at this. First view, second view. That's what the tab does. So once you explore, then when I say we're going to make a tab, oh, a tab, I remember tabbed. Oh, we're going to work with OpenGL. Oh, OpenGL, I know where that one is, you know. And then you get a little bit more familiar you are with the interface, the less fear you have in terms of creating brand new projects and project types. If I come in here, if I go into the empty one, I'm not going to get very much. It's going to be completely empty. Utility app's going to be able Let's just do a utility app. A utility app's not going to show me anything either, really. It's actually just going to show me flip side, where we can click on something. It's going to take me from one screen to another screen. So what we're looking at in the first couple weeks are different app types. See, here's the information. It goes back. You go, oh, you know how you see sometimes you see settings and stuff? This is a utility app. So it's in a format where you see settings and stuff. And you go, oh, let's see. Click on here and you can put in more stuff, and then you can go done. Goes back to the beginning, stuff like that. So. And then we'll see something called storyboarding. Storyboard. So for those people who are anxious and want to see running apps, because this is your first week is all about exploration. Because I want you to explore this. Don't go online and find a bunch of tutorials and stuff like that. And let me show you a direction that you could take as well. If you go onto bhacker.com website, and instead of pressing return, type in workshops. So workshops, press return. The one that I highly recommend, and what you're going to see in here are previous workshops. They're both iOS and Android. What I recommend is actually going into this one called Digital Arts. Digital Arts one is really good because it's all fun, gooey stuff. You click on, this is okay, so it's bhacker.com, which you already wrote down, /workshops. /workshops. If you do that, what you do is then you go in here. The one that I recommend is the one in the second to the last, or even that iOS application development one's fun. The reason why I say the digital arts one, let me click on this one, is because on one side of the fence you got a bunch of tutorials. We're going to hit most of these tutorials, so don't worry about it. On the right hand you got the finished projects. So you can go in, oops, I think the website, there we go. Finished projects over here. As an example, if I look at this web view, I'm just going to click on here. I'm going to get a zip file. Every one of the tutorials that we're going to do in the class is going to have one of these corresponding zip files to it, which means you can't get it to work. No problem. You just look at the finished solution. But the idea is that you want to get it to work. My internet's running a bit slow right now. Usually when I click on it, it gives me an option to download. But it could be that one other person has clicked on this. And the ITU security has flagged it. Or it could be that we just have lousy internet access right now, which is possibly the case. This is so disappointing. So anyway, if you click on these, eventually you'll be able to download a zip file. I don't know, has anyone had any luck yet? Not working for me right now. Save. No, it's not going to work. I think I've clicked. Oh, here we go. Zip file. Save the zip file. I got almost there. Almost there. Well, I'm only going to give this a few minutes. If you unzip the zip file, you get the same thing I just showed you a few minutes ago. You click on the XCode project and then run it and see what it looks like. See what it does. All of these work for you. These are very, very, very simple. These are the ones that we're going to be building in the first couple weeks of this course. Maybe about 3 weeks. So it kind of shows you where we're going to if you get bored. So this is not going to download. So anyway, as promised, I cannot let you out before after 4 o'clock, and we're almost hitting the deadline here. So in order to keep my sanity and good karma of this course, I'm going to let you go. But next week, come here with XCode installed. Come here, not afraid to touch it. Get yourself a little mouse if you want. It might make your life easier, you know. Makes my life easier. Because otherwise you're going to be like this, like Twister, trying to figure out how to do your stuff on your touchpad. And I will see you next week. How's that? Okay. See you next week.